to Meditation 101. Today we are going to discuss some basic points in and around meditation. This video is coming as a result of questions from clients who want to add meditation into their life but have heard some things that makes them either unsure about the practice of meditation or just needing tips and pointers of how to structure it or how to find a way to bring it into your daily routine. So we're going to first just talk about those questions, and then also there will be an additional video that has a short 15-minute meditation to give you an idea of what that type of meditation is. So first of all, let me begin by saying that meditation is a time to connect with your higher self, with your guides, your angels, the Ascended Masters working with you, with God. When you create this connection, the very first thing you do is decide who you're going to connect with. Meditation is much like placing a spiritual phone call. You wouldn't just pick up the phone and randomly choose someone in your contact list. And meditation's much the same way. We don't randomly go into it without deciding who it is we're going to be in contact with that particular day. If you are just starting out with meditation, I recommend that when you meditate, you connect with God or the higher being that you believe in. That's where your most comfort is going to be. If you don't have a strong connection with God, or you're unsure if there's a connection there, then I would recommend connecting with your higher self. Your higher self is the soul aspect of you. It is connected with you. It knows everything that you do. It is your soul. It is your spirit. It is you, in a sense. So pick one of those two things, and when you begin meditating, you're going to continue to create the same connection as a part of your routine. So if you're choosing to connect with God during meditation, then you are going to connect with God each and every time you meditate, much like choosing God from your contact list. You're going to select connection with God's energy each and every time. So that is the first step. Next, when we meditate, there are two purposes of meditation. I've already mentioned one a little bit, and that is connection. So we're creating a connection. So why would we want to do that? Well, we would create a connection because maybe we need some answers to some questions. A connection, like a phone call, is a dialogue, a back and forth. We might start out with a lot of questions and maybe not hear so many answers or receive so much guidance in the beginning. Maybe we need to learn to see and interpret how that guidance is coming in. However, if we are doing meditation, then we are indeed in that flow, that connection, and being able to ask the questions that we do want to have the answers for. And I'll get into that again in a little bit. The next purpose of meditation is to learn to quiet your mind. This is the most important thing necessary to receive the answers to your questions. If you go into meditation and you're asking question, there's no time for the response to come in. So typically I recommend that before you meditate, you either go into meditation with a blank slate, having nothing to ask about, and being receptive to whatever comes in that day, or you write a list of 3 to 5 questions, no more than 5, and you ask those questions while you're in meditation, not waiting for You ask those questions, one question at a time, and give time for a response to come in, or at least just for your mind to be in a place of receiving, okay? So that is really the basics of why we would want to do meditation. So there are lots of different styles of meditation out there. It it's important to find something that works for you. The type of meditation that I typically talk about is what I call a partially guided meditation. And so there's music, and then there's somebody that is guiding you through a part of the process. Maybe they're guiding you to a nice place to sit, like a park bench that overlooks the lake, and then that's your place to have your conversation with God or your higher self or whoever you want to connect to. So the reason why I like that style of meditation is because it gives us both a framework, so we know there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, but also in the middle portion is this free-form time. There's a lot of time where it's just music, and that facilitates you having a conversation and connection with whomever you want to speak with. This is really important. Whatever type of meditation you decide to do, and you can research this till your heart's content on Google. There's so many kinds of meditation. You can do more active meditations with yoga, walking meditations, Tai Chi. You can do different styles of meditation. You can do with the gong, with the Tibetan bells. I mean, you can go on and on and on. Find something that works for you, though. And this is something that I find is a great starting place for a lot of people to use these partially guided meditations. And then they're able to adapt it more for what fits in your routine, in your life, and so forth. When you're doing meditation, there are lots of different recommendations for how your body is supposed to be positioned. Ideally, you want to keep your spine straight. However, it is much more important that you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable, you're going to be distracted. So, this is what I typically recommend. First, just make your body comfortable. Sit, stand, lie down, slouch, it doesn't matter. Just be comfortable. You don't want to think about your leg that's falling asleep or a back cramp in the middle of meditation. So ensure that you're comfortable first. The farther you get along with meditation and the more comfortable you are with the process of meditation, then you can begin adapting your body position to straighten your spine more. Typically we want to sit cross-legged or in lotus position. So we're sitting, we have our legs crossed, we have our palms up, and we have our spine straight. That's the ideal position to have. However, like I said, to me, I would put that secondary to your comfort. Your comfort is far more important. So I touched on this just briefly earlier, but the first thing that you need to do before going into meditation is connect and decide who you're going to connect with. So even though you might be listening to a partially guided audio or a nice piece of music, those audios and the nice piece of music isn't going to tell you who you need to connect with. You need to decide that. You need to have a very clear focus of, today I'm going to connect with God, or today I'm going to talk with Jesus. Today I'm going to speak with my higher self. Choose somebody. That's the first thing you do. Then you start your meditation audio. Okay? While it's beginning, and usually if you're listening to one of the partially guided meditations that I've created, I will do this part for you. But some people won't. So once you've begun that meditation, what you want to do is you do a short invocation or prayer, and you're asking for protection and a strong connection. So I'll give you an example, and this is what I typically do. I ask that only the highest energies come forward today. Today I'm going to meditate for the purpose of connection, strengthening my wisdom, learning to quiet my mind, and I ask for the protection of my energy space while I'm in meditation, and I ask for clarity in my communication with whomever I invite in to speak with. So the reason we're asking for that is that, just like a phone call, we're placing this meditation call, this call to connect, in a space where it's like a giant old school telephone operating room, if you can remember from like a movie that depicts the 40s and the 50s and somebody's moving the connections around, okay? So what we're doing is we are saying, this is my primary connection. This is the one connection I'm choosing today. And when you ask for protection, you are asking for all other connections, any other options to fall away for that 15 minutes or that 30 minutes, okay? You need to have that clarity of that. Another reason we ask for protection is actually for our own subconscious, because many people have a fear of creating such a connection. Maybe they were taught that it's unhealthy to do, or they were taught that it is not holy enough, or there's some other fear or religious ideology that conflicts with that. So the other reason why we ask for protection is so that we have peace of mind in going into that. We ask for protection because we need to trust in that protection being there. Meditation on its own is a very safe space. Meditation energetically is absolutely no different from prayer. But yet many people are told that these two things are different. They are not. But because of our own preconceived notions, we might want to add some more of that protection verbiage to what we're saying, and that's just fine. Remember what I was talking about with that visual of the telephone operators moving those connections, right? When you are in meditation, and the same goes for when you are in prayer, you are forming that clear connection. Think about when you pray. You are praying to a very specific, energetic, divine being. You're praying to God. You're praying to Jesus. You're connecting with Buddha. You're connecting with Shiva. You're connecting with one singular being. You're choosing who you're going to connect and reach out to, okay, when you pray. This is how meditation works as well. You choose that connection. So then that telephone operating room, they're moving that connection between your energy and the energy who you're reaching out to. In that space, in that operating room, in that telephone operating room, there is a multitude of connections. So this is why some people think that it's possible to connect with an energy with negative intent. As long as you set your intention ahead of time, you will not make a mistake in connecting to the wrong being. It's no different than choosing who you're going to call on your phone. You probably have people as a contact in your phone who maybe you don't get along with too well. Maybe it's a family member that's a distant cousin, but you need to have their contact information, but you wouldn't love accidentally calling them if you intended to call somebody else, right? When you place that call on your phone, you know exactly who you're going to talk to. You might even prepare yourself in how you're going to speak specifically to that person. Meditation is exactly the same. You know specifically who you're connecting with, and you need to trust that that connection is accurate and pure, because it is. It's absolutely the same as when you reach out to connect in prayer, okay? The only way for you to build up that trust is to practice this on your own. So I can keep saying the same thing over and over again, but really the best thing is for you to connect and reach out and trust that you are protected. And if somebody's giving you negative messages about meditation, maybe it's a good idea to ask them what negative experience they had. It might have been a personally negative experience. It might just be that they've never tried it and they heard things from somebody else. So that's always a good rule of thumb. If you're ever hearing something negative from another person, find out why they feel that way. They may reference their own belief system. That's fine too. So just looking at that and having that understanding is very helpful. But the most important thing is your own experience, what you feel right doing within yourself, okay? There are many, many benefits to meditation, and in fact, I recommend that if you're doing a regular practice of prayer, that you can also bring in meditation during the same time. So you might have your morning prayers and evening prayers. Well, maybe you could bring in meditation sometime during the day. It's a different kind of conversation, okay? The reason why it's different is because it has a physical component to it where we are turning off our mind. If you're able to turn off your mind when you're in prayer, fabulous. I don't know that many people who are able to do that. So meditation is a great way to learn how to do that. And in fact, if you combine meditation and prayer, what you're going to find is that your time in prayer becomes your time to ask questions, and your time in meditation becomes your time to receive answers. It's very powerful being used that way. Okay, so we've set our intention of who we're connecting with. We've put out our call for protection and ensuring we are only connecting with who we have chosen to connect with. And so now what do? Well, our meditation audio is playing in the background, a nice piece of music, or if we're doing it in silence, or if we're listening to a guided audio. And we just sit back and receive information, receive healing, receive peace of mind and clarity. And you just simply enjoy the meditation experience. Try to make sure you have minimized distractions, like put your phone on silent. Make sure you're in a room where if you have pets at home, they're not going to jump in your lap in meditation, because I'll tell you, they love the energy of it. So they sometimes can jump in your lap and disrupt you. So either make sure they're already taking a nap or are already in your lap before you begin, so you don't have to have that interruption there. And other than that, I just recommend having a pen and paper nearby, or having an audio recorder. You can just record into your phone, because when you do receive answers, you want to immediately write them down. Sometimes answers come in meditation in the form of visuals. We may see a scene that plays out in front of us. We could hear something. We could hear our name, or we could hear a positive message like you are loved, or reach out to your aunt, or do this, do that. Those kind of things are very common in meditation. We could also receive something through a feeling. We could feel a certain area in our body that needs attention. We could feel something internally that we know once we finish our meditation, we know the next task we need to prioritize in our life. Different things like that also help greatly. So meditation is very individualized. It is something that you can change the style. You can change how your body is positioned. You can choose the length of time you need to do it. It's a lot of personal choice, and I think that amount of personal choice is sometimes overwhelming. So I've given some recommendations on styles to start out with. I do highly recommend a partially guided or fully guided audio with music to begin with, but do make sure that you feel comfortable with the person, that you've listened to them speak on other things, or you've read their writing and it feels like it resonates with you. If you don't know the person who is guiding your meditation, it could be a potential for disruption, or maybe their voice bothers you, anything like that. You want to avoid anything being bothersome in any way, okay? Again, you start out with that. I would recommend, if you're just beginning, to start out with 15 minutes of meditation just once a week. Just try it to try it. And eventually you want to build up to doing a daily meditation. I would recommend at least 20 minutes. I would say maximum of an hour, and find a time that works for you. There's a magic number in there that everybody has that is somewhere beyond 20 minutes, but a little bit less than an hour, where you're just done. And the more that you do it, you'll kind of learn what that special time number is for you. You do need to go for at least 20 minutes, because that is the amount of time it takes for your brain to stop trying to interfere with the process. So if you really are committed to being receptive, to the answers that are coming in, you definitely want to work up to that 20 minutes, and I would really recommend 30 minutes, because anytime you are wanting to meditate for receiving answers, receiving healing, receiving wisdom, any type of receiving, that first 20 minutes is pretty much only going to be mind chatter for a while until you learn how to shut it down. So you're really getting that nice clarity after that 20-minute mark, okay? But for those of you just starting out, really I just recommend 15 minutes. I find that if you try to do too much, it's a bit of a challenge and you can get frustrated. Really, if you're starting out, the biggest thing you're doing is learning to close your mind down, to stop the mind chatter, stop thinking about the grocery list, don't think about what Sally said at work today, don't think about what your neighbor just did, all of that stuff. We want to have our minds blank, and typically the partially guided meditations will assist you in creating that feeling of calm and relaxation. Okay, so now I'm going to address some of the specific questions that I was asked to cover. So we did talk about the opening prayer and how to set the energy. That is your life preserver, so to speak. So that is the number one thing that we needed to address. The next question that I was given was, how do you meditate without the fear of attracting negative energies? Well, this fear of attracting negative energies comes from your own subconscious, meaning that somewhere in your life, in this lifetime or in past lifetimes, you have been told that meditating attracts negative energies. Meditation does not attract negative energies any more than prayer does. What attracts negative energies are addiction, disease, anger, and in some cases, strong abject fear, like you don't want to meditate right after watching a horror movie kind of a thing. In fact, I wouldn't recommend watching horror movies at all, because horror movies do attract negative energies. So first of all, you need to know what circumstances and situations attract negative energies. And if you are in a state of anger, if you are consuming alcohol on a daily basis before meditation, those are states of mind you do not need to be in before meditation, okay? It is important to understand your intentions. So as long as you have a pure intention of connecting with God, connecting to your higher self, and finding out information or receiving healing, there's absolutely no way a negative energy can get into that connection you're creating. Remember, that connection of that phone operating room, it's you and the energy you have chosen to connect with. Nobody else can get into that connection. It is not an open call line. It is not a group call. It is two people or two energies, you and the divine energy you've chosen to connect with, that's there, and that's it, okay? So any fear comes from something that we have unresolved. Somebody told us something, we felt something. So I do recommend looking at that. Where does it come from before you even begin meditation? Because if you have such a strong fear of meditation, then it tells us that you actually have a really strong fear of attempting something new or having a different belief than the people around you. So there's a little bit more to it than just meditation itself. It may be connected to that experience, but it is just the tip of the iceberg. So I would look at that fear long before you even try meditation. Don't force yourself to do it. That is not the state you want to be in. Meditation is very relaxing. It's very calming. It is not fear-based or anger-based or sadness-based or powerlessness or anything like that. It is the ultimate in relaxation. And if you have anything in the way of that relaxation, meditation is not going to give you the benefits that it normally would. Okay? So do look at that energy first. Don't force yourself. See, the other question I have here is, what are negative entities? Okay. Negative entities encompass a lot of different things. There is the one that affects us the most is something called thought forms. Thought forms are negative entities that, because of belief and the number of people who believe in them, become like their own energy. Think of like childhood stories about the boogeyman, right? Perfect example of a thought form. We have other things like this from ghost stories, from horror movies, from things that people talk about around Halloween. This is the most common category, okay? So when you are connecting in meditation, these thought forms cannot go in there. Thought forms they're an entity that can stand alone. They have a shape, that's why we call them a form. They have originated in our thoughts, that's why we call them thought forms. So unless you are specifically wanting to connect with this energy, which I definitely would not recommend, and you certainly wouldn't want to be doing that, there's no need you're not placing a call to them. They're not just going to come on by. They have to have somebody reach out to them. That is how all energetic connections work. There has to be some reaching out. So another form of negative entities is something that I call Earthbound Spirits. You may know these as ghosts. Earthbound spirits are people who, upon their death, have chosen to stay attached to the earth. They live every day like it's a repeat of the same day over and over and over again. It's a day that they have a high amount of emotion to. It's usually not the day of their death, some other day in their life that they're waiting for somebody to come home, or they're expecting some certain news, or this or that or the other. So earthbound spirits are very much location-based. They also can be connected to a person very strongly. This would be only in the case if it was a person like your mother or father or grandmother who passed and you lived with them and they were highly connected to you and you knew that they didn't transition to heaven, to the other side. These are very rare cases of being connected to a person. But you can visit places like hotels, like large cities where there are earthbound spirits hanging out. Sometimes they hang out in saloons, bars, pubs, hotels. I've seen them hang out in just other places, buildings that are really old, that have had a lot of different apartments in them over the years. So if you live in one of these places, you want to clear out your home of any energy before you ever meditate, before you ever pray, in fact. And there's a couple easy ways to do that. First thing is to ask for your home to be cleared and protected by God. That's a very simple thing that you can do, and it is done just being direct in your request, as I just stated. Another thing that you can use is sage. A lot of people use sage for clearing out energy in a space. This can be used for clearing out earthbound spirits, for clearing out emotion, for just refreshing the energy of a space. Maybe you've moved into a new place. You don't want the energy of the people who just moved out 3 days ago to be hanging out there. We leave an energy imprint wherever we are for 30 days. It lingers after we're there. So we always want to make sure that the energy in a space is refreshed. Same with a hotel room. You can use sage if it's allowed. And that's the key. Sometimes we're not allowed to burn the sage because of the smoke, or maybe it's on our lease, or we're in a hotel and we don't want to have any issues with the sage smoke. So what I recommend doing instead of that is to have a clear quartz pointed crystal. You stand in the middle of the room or the space that you're in. You point the point away from you and you hold it in. You can hold it in one hand, you can hold it in both hands together. It really doesn't matter. And you stand in the middle of the room and you rotate slowly and you raise the crystal up and down. So you're making sure to cover the corner where the ceiling meets the wall, as well as the corner where the floor meets the wall. And you rotate 360 degrees very slowly until the whole room has been covered. And then you move to the next room. When you're doing this with either the sage or the clear quartz crystal, be sure that you also look in nooks and crannies, like inside drawers, cupboards, funny spaces like above the kitchen cupboards. What you're doing here, you're not clearing out the negative entities. They're not in those spaces, but you are clearing out energy residue from people who have been there previously, okay? So other kinds of negative entities, there are, of course, the super negative entities that are talked about in a lot of religious texts. Again, these entities are in the category of they cannot come in and interfere unless you call them in. So if you don't feel that you're able to control your thoughts, if your thoughts start to get focused on negative entities and you're not feeling secure enough in yourself to not think about them, then you need to wait before you do meditation. And in fact, you need to be waiting before you engage in prayer. If you have trouble focusing your thoughts on who you want to connect with, you're going to get a hodgepodge. You're going to get different energies there. This is because you're thinking about them, okay? This is your highest protection. It is to your benefit to learn to control your own thoughts. And if you cannot do it, it's very dangerous for you to engage in any type of spiritual connection process because you don't know who you are engaging with. You could be engaging with anybody you are thinking about. If you are able to be in control of your thoughts, it's the simplest thing out there. I'm going to connect with God and God only today in my meditation. I ask only the highest energies to come forward to protect this space. It will be God and myself only in this space during my meditation. Thank you. See how easy that is? Okay, so I believe I've gone through the questions that were sent and hopefully addressed questions you had and maybe questions you didn't even know you had about meditation. I am now going to, in a separate audio so that you can enjoy it on its own, create a partially guided meditation so that I can show you what exactly that is like. It's going to be a short 15-minute one, so especially for people who are just beginning, if you're somebody in that category who's new to meditation, then this would be a great place for you to begin. I also have longer 58-minute, almost an hour long, partially guided meditations on a variety of topics that are available for purchase when you're ready for a deeper level and a longer time of meditation in your practice. So thank you, and please do let me know on my website if you have any questions. You can visit yoursoulmission.com and contact me through there with any questions you have about meditation, and also view all the meditations that are available, including the free videos as well as the paid meditations